All right, I am joined this evening by Marc Goldner. You may remember him from the many interviews that I've done with him in the past with, because of his involvement with Golden Bell Entertainment. How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks again for having me, Chad. Always fun to go over the same old, but I think we got some new stuff going on. And yeah, everything's good. How's everything by you?
As well as quarantine can be.
Yep, it's everyone's in quarantine right now.
So you posted on Facebook the other day that you were, you know, kind of shifting some gears or, using some of the contacts that you've developed, through Golden Bell to kind of, help with the current crisis situation. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I can actually rewind. Some of this actually predates before Golden Bell. Actually, before I even had went to Ohio State. About 10 years ago, I was involved with a startup called Pure Safe Water Systems, and the whole company was doing crisis management and emergency work. I was specifically responsible for looking at different routes in Africa where there was less danger in specific regions, looking at Tanzania, Kenya, and Ghana, where we were working with delegates from the United Nations, different NGOs, and there was a little bit of everything. A lot of people in the startup wear different hats. I was working on sales, explaining like the technologies, simplifying it. Not an engineer by trade, and kind of looking at deployment methods. Like after the Haitian earthquake, we had deployed the system to Haiti, and it was purifying 50,000 gallons of water per day for about 100 something thousand people. I had left the company around 2012 and had decided to go to Ohio State, get my business degree there at Fisher. And from there, then my significant other, Rachel, and my best friend, Rob, which both of them, we started Golden Bell. And I hadn't been working in the public service space for many, many years. Had always planned on going back in some capacity, but I had wanted to go back into water purification specifically, and I didn't really see a good entry at this point. And then what happened was COVID-19 hit, and we had been talking about the widespread capabilities of this virus since January. I've been telling some of my classmates in my law classes that school was going to shut down. No one believed it. They're like, "You're a conspiracy theorist. It'll never happen." All in good fun, but it did happen, and we're sitting here. We're figuring out, okay, well, Hot Topic, our main retailer, they closed. All the malls closed. Amazon stopped taking a non-essential purchase orders because we sell to Amazon, not to customers on Amazon. And then one of our stuffed animal manufacturers, they had emailed Rachel and asked if we needed any masks for ourselves. And we said no, we didn't at the time because we had my dad's also in the apparels and luggage business, so he was sent some samples. And then a couple days later, the same factory had emailed Rachel and said that they're converting their manufacturing facilities temporarily to medical mask, N95 and surgical mask respirators, as well as gowns. So they were investing in equipment, and this was like a real big nationwide government mandate from China. They were having a lot of factories start converting their wares because they had the skill set to be able to do it and just needed small investments in the technology and the equipment. So from there, we had talked to my dad because his business also halted. His big business is Amazon and big retail, and they're closed. So we'd all put our heads together, and I had called up a few people that I knew in emergency management, a bunch of scientists and PhDs, and a bunch of people in sales. And we were talking about, okay, do we think that we can actually be importing these N95 respirators? So a big bulk of the work that we were doing over the past few weeks has been really diving into all the FDA, CDC guidelines, the EUA, from the directives from the CDC to the FDA and vice versa, and figuring out which products are actually real, which are NIOSH approved, which are CE certified for any European customers that we would have. And we were essentially sourcing not only our factory, but we said, if we're getting any customers, 10,000 masks a day, that type of capacity is nothing. It's not, it won't do much, especially when there's other customers that these factories have. So I started reaching out to a bunch of governors' offices, places like IEMA, a lot of the emergency management organizations in the different states. And what we started to notice right away was that people wanted these 3M masks. They wanted the name brand. They wanted the 3M N95s. And it's been a challenge explaining to people that 3M is just a brand, just like Pepsi is to Coca-Cola, and there's other sodas like Jones Soda, or people make their own. It's just a brand, and there's nothing more to it than that. And it's been very challenging because a lot of these municipalities, and especially the biggest problem right now is nursing homes, care centers do not have equipment. They don't have PPE. And those are real targets for the virus. So we've been explaining to people that, yes, there have been a lot of scams. It's less so in places like New Hampshire and Iowa. It's more people trying to make like a very quick buck in like big hotbeds like New York and California, where we're not even focusing on because the competition is just so big. So from there, we've been essentially educating a bunch of the consumers. We've been working now with a factor to be able to get purchase orders so that the hospitals don't need to outlay any money up front. They won't have to pay for 30 to 60 days, depending on their credit, till after they receive the product and they know it's legitimate. So that eases a huge risk that a lot of these organizations have fears of because of the noise that's out there, especially with customs seizing medical equipment, or a Chinese export refusing to even ship out PPE in certain cases. Then we've been working with a couple factories getting expedited FDA registration approval, which incredible that they are actually moving so fast. Like we're talking 7 to 10 business days. They're approving factories. They're sending QC, getting the samples, and they're doing it very quickly. That's kind of what's going on right now. I think that's a really good overview. It's longer than I had thought it would take to explain, but
that's okay. So, has been working with Golden Bell? Has that kind of helped you do any of this, or because I saw in your Facebook that you were like, you kind of were pulling contacts from everywhere.
Yep. So yeah, a lot of, it's surprising that there's a lot of overlap in anything. With Golden Bell specifically, we wouldn't have had a great relationship with one of our banks who's factoring all the purchase orders and receivables that have known us for years and years and years. So that relationship, banking is pretty much every industry. So pretty much feeding and working on those types of relationships from Golden Bell has been great. And then, I mean, with the factories, like kind of starting there with the sources. And then one of our book manufacturers we were actually just talking to, they're subcontracting for gowns and hand sanitizer right now. So we were just talking with them a couple hours. Well, Rachel was talking with them a couple hours ago. And she works mostly with the factories. So I just like look at the end of the day, the pricing. And I mean, the margins right now, there are people that are selling these masks for like $10 a mask, which is crazy. But at the same time, what a lot of the governors' offices don't understand, something that Golden Bell has definitely taught me, is about just the margin, the capabilities of supply and demand. The supply is so high that these factories are charging $2, $3 a mask at minimum, when normally it used to be 20, 30 cents. So when Governor Cuomo, I respect what he's doing. I understand that it's a crisis, but I think there is a level and decorum that he does not understand of business whatsoever. That saying that someone that is selling it for $3 is price gouging is actually perpetuating a fear to other municipalities that don't have the expertise in what these things should normally cost when buying in bulk. So that's something that we've had to explain to people, that if we're making a 5-10% margin when a normal business operates on 30 to 50%, that's not making money. We're just trying to get these products out there. So a lot of what Golden Bell has taught me is the importance of understanding really the cost structure of everything and making sure that you can get things as timely as possible, because that is often very, very challenging in any industry, even if there's not a crisis.
Was there, so, if I kind of segueing over into the, more the comic book side of things, what, how is the current, situation, how does that affecting your stuff with Golden Bell? Have you put Golden Bell kind of on the back burner?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We're actually trying to come up with creative ways to be using designs, like we were talking about, putting designs on like masks for kids temporarily. In terms of like content hasn't stopped at all. Artists are still working, writers are still writing, the animators are still animating. So in terms of content creation, that hasn't halted. In terms of purchase orders and distribution, that's nearly non-existent at this stage. So that's where a lot of my time has shifted. Usually I would work with companies like Hot Topic and Amazon and our warehouse, getting things prepared for shipment, or reaching out and trying to get new products, like working with the licensors, all the licenses that we have at Nickelodeon, Disney, Sony, etc. That stuff has been more halted because everyone is just so delayed, and that's, it's a blessing and a curse. The negative part is you can't really generate a lot of income right now on entertainment. I know a lot of people are booming on the direct to customer model. Unfortunately, we don't have those capabilities. We ship in pallets, like hundreds of units at a time. And I know that digital, especially in comics, has been big, but really we've been gearing up like a really nice launch, especially with the licenses. We had Lost, which we've talked about many times, launching on 4/8, and we had to postpone it. We don't even have the sample from the Game Factory yet. We've been waiting for it for God knows how long now. So we were starting all these licensed campaigns. We had Superbad planned in a few weeks, and we've just delayed everything until the end of the summer. I don't know if it'll impact crowdfunding sales. What I'm concerned about is I don't think anything's going to get delivered in the next 4 months. I don't think people are going to make Q4 shipments. But I could be wrong. I mean, I've been saying I don't think people are going back to school till January, but I hope I'm wrong. I don't know. It's really one of those things that's tough to say.
So I don't know if you saw the news, but San Diego rightfully canceled the Comic-Con. What do you think? How's that going to, is that going to affect you guys? I mean, I know you guys, I would be leery about going to New York Comic-Con. I mean,
this year, yeah,
just because not only the people, but that's where they're they're staging things at the moment.
I know it's amazing what the Javits has done for New York and for people affected by COVID-19. I think it was definitely something that a lot of people didn't expect, and it has saved a lot of lives. In terms of conventions, we are not impacted directly by San Diego Comic-Con, but New York Comic-Con, like, that's our biggest show of the year. A lot of the pack shows, like, those are now gone. I mean, we have probably about, I want to say 10-15% of our business, roughly about that, is convention sales. So that's a real killer, to just take that hit like that. And we've been talking internally about, we've had this idea for a long time, probably like before Golden Bell. Rachel, Rob, and I, when we had the Buckeyes Assemble comic book club at Ohio State, we were talking about running a virtual Comic-Con. And I know some people are trying to do that, but the way they're doing it, I'm not talking about like a Zoom Comic-Con. I'm talking about like literally where people can walk through, see booths in like a virtual space. The opportunity is there. The investment is huge, and getting people on board is going to be even sometimes more difficult. And then the bandwidth of 100,000 plus people come on, and then figuring out how to sell tickets. I think that we will see something come of this because of these conventions. It's hurting a lot of artists, creators, publishers, designers, whatever it may be. And I'm not sure exactly what innovation will happen from it, but it's going to be hurting. It's a terrible situation that I don't think many people had planned for. We didn't go to PAX East and we thought that this was going to be deep trouble. And then one of our buddies, he texted me and he goes, "Good thing you didn't come. There was like 20% of the people here from last year."
So, what are your thoughts about the future of the comic book industry in general? I mean, do you see new distribution methods, arising that would, maybe be more favorable to small publishers like you, or?
I hate to be the pessimist, but I've been calling something like this for a very long time. I've been talking about, I wrote my thesis on the next recession, and I did not think in any realm of reality that a recession would be caused by a virus. I don't think many people in the world would have ever predicted this. I thought it was going to be something like a double dip, or a commercial real estate bust, or something within educational bubble. Was wrong on all those counts. I think the future of the comic and publishing industry as a whole, we are going to see a second consolidation of a lot of the larger companies. Excuse me. We saw it with Penguin Random House. We saw that a lot of their shares were just bought recently. There's going to be other mergers. I think that media companies are going to get wise very quickly, and they're going to see an opportunity, especially with companies like Disney that have still cash on hand, and even Apple. Apple could wind up buying a company like Disney. I think we're going to start seeing vertical and horizontal integration in the distribution and publishing space, where I think it spells very bad news for smaller publishers. I think people are thinking that, there's going to be more ways to distribute, but things get lost, and you'll need money to advertise. And if you wind up having Diamond getting bought, or the comic book shops, I still don't know how they can survive something like this. I think digital, although I hate to say it, but I think digital really is going to just completely overpower physical comic sales and books. I mean, I'm someone that loves just like have a nice little bookshelf. I love reading. I have my comic book collection, the closet, my long boxes. It sucks because I don't personally like reading comics online on an iPad. It's not for me. I don't think physical print will die completely, but I think we can even look what's happening in the movie space as a parallel. Rob is very upset because I told him 5 years ago AMC is going to close down very soon. Again, I did not think it would be because of a pandemic, which is terrible, but I think we'll see a rise. And that's kind of getting to who can come out from this. I think we'll have like drive-ins make a comeback. Drive-in theaters, I think, can make a comeback in the movie space. I think that there's going to be a new innovation of how to get physical books and comics out to people. I'm just not sure of the cost structure. Maybe people will be willing to pay more for a physical book than the $3 than it currently costs. But I see that the distribution channels and the retail outlets being a thing of the past, probably in about 5 years from now. Again, I thought it was going to be way further out, but I think now with the acceleration of what's going on, that's probably what we're looking at.
Oh, so any final thoughts before we wrap up? Because I do have to kind of get back to my.
I understand. No, thank you again for having me.
I just got my list of names, so.
I hear you. I hear you. I want to thank you again. Pleasure talking. If you ever want to chat again about anything, we can talk more. But there's still a lot of really cool stuff in store for Golden Belt. We have a lot of awesome content that we're getting to really focus on now that we're all like saying, okay, well, we don't need, everyone else doesn't need to be focusing on the conventions, and Rob's not losing weekend after weekend on sales doing conventions. So we're getting to like do a lot of writing, creative kind of workshopping and boot camping. So Rachel's getting to work on some art again after her surgery. So this is, at the end of the day, you got to find silver linings in sometimes bad situations.
Well, just stay safe and, keep doing what you're doing, and, we'll get through this.
We will. I'm confident. Yep. We've done it thousands of years.
All right. Well, have a good evening.
You too.
Yeah. All right. Have a good evening. Thank you for joining. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.